Okay, are we on? Read the Torah portion as the Bible has been broken up by tradition into portions to cover throughout the 52 weeks of the year, plus some special readings otherwise. And we are in the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. Okay? For those of you that are on live stream, we'll sort of repeat this later. We ask that you would be respectful of the fact that this is a congregational study, and that we do ask that you would act like you would if you were here in a polite and respectful manner, and that it's not a place to argue and debate your positions on anything. The positions that are being taken will be taken from the microphone for this group, as you would expect the teacher to do. Okay? That doesn't mean that we can't discuss things. We will have a discussion time towards the end here. After we read the portion, we'll go ahead and go through it and discuss what we have read. Okay? All right, so we're going to begin with some prayer time, then I'll do some announcing, and then we'll read the portion. So I do need Steve to come up and grab the mic right over there. That'll be good. Okay, so if you have a prayer request or praise report and you're here locally, you can go ahead and raise your hand. If you're on live stream, Manny is there on the live stream desk taking down your requests. See, I didn't say Manny is manning the desk. I tried to, well, I said it anyway. There you go, I just said it. Okay. All right, we'll begin with Owen.
Hi, everyone. Just want to praise Abba that he brought me back safe.
Yay! I'm assuming that to some degree, and the word degree was on purpose, you went from what we thought was hot here to something that was really much hotter there to come back to here. Was it much hotter in Texas?
Not as humid.
Okay, not as humid. Okay. Okay, but you're getting used to the humidity now? Okay, good. All right, who's next? Okay, bring it back to Michelle.
I guess they don't know on the live stream they're getting a mani-pedi and didn't know it.
There you go. All right, we'll go ahead and bring him the microphone. Or actually, Michelle has her hand up. So go ahead, Michelle. What do you got?
I wanted to ask prayer for my family back in California. One of my cousins, she's been ill for about 40 years at least, with kidney failure. She had a kidney transplant, and then, just throughout her life, she's had a lot of struggle. She spent the last month and a half in the hospital, getting a new kidney, getting a new liver, and she didn't make it. She passed away Sunday, and my mom and dad especially are, really feeling it. So I just wanted to ask for prayer, for shalom for them, and ask if maybe we can do the Mourner's Kaddish again.
Yep, we can. Yes, we can, and we'll need to do that for more than one reason, because also I have an uncle that passed on Sunday as well, and the funeral is tomorrow. I won't be going, but it was one of those things, as often happens, where there's sort of a mixed feeling about it, because he's been in quite a bit of suffering and pain for many, many years, and so the family is, sad for his passing, but relieved for his relief. okay, so to speak. So, and so that I believe happened over the weekend on Sunday. So, my family, keep them in prayer. This is my father's youngest brother. Like he's the oldest of three. So I don't even know how old he was, but he's probably about 80, I'm guessing, somewhere in that range. So anyway, so we certainly can do Kaddish again on Shabbat. Okay, who's next? Okay, Rick. And Rick, you do get a prize for picking the right shirt today.
I want to just praise Abba. We got an offer on our home in Pennsylvania, and we accepted it. So pending their approval with everything else, we'll be closing October 1st.
All right, fantastic. Okay, good job. All right, anybody else? Okay, bring it to Manny.
Not quite completely ready, but we're going with it. Let's see. George and Isabel, praise report. Isabel's dad walked today after having his stomach removed yesterday. Prayers for him, George, to get through application process and upcoming interviews. Michelle, prayers for all travelers to feast for safe travels. All right. TNCC, no wait. Janice Schreiber, praise report, my sons and I are healing and finding peace after sudden death of their father. Thank you for the prayers. Brian, praise report for my VA evaluation. It went perfectly. No PTSD.
Amen. That's great to know. Almost everybody I talk to has PTSD. Not VA related, though, but just life related. But okay, go ahead.
TNCC, praise report, thanking Yah that I'm not the only one Torah observant in my school. I found out about one of the other teachers was Torah observant this week.
Amen.
Let's see here. Sharon Masters, thanks to everyone who has been praying for my son. Nothing new to report, but we are trusting Yah that his operation will actually happen and all will be well. Olivier and Janet Hoffman, prayers for discernment and healing in our family. Somebody's got mail.
All right, we give Steve 3 demerits for that one. 2 fails, actually. One for still using AOL, and the other for not turning off your phone.
Oh, Rabbi.
I'm not sure which one was more embarrassing, but go ahead.
Oh, man. Okay. I'm trying to catch up
The
here.
children are all going, what's AOL? But that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Shirley, prayer for health of my mom and son. Unspoken prayer for upcoming tests on this Thursday for her. Evangeline, many unspoken prayers, please. Claudia, please pray for health, business ideas to come to fruition, straight wisdom and direction. Shalom. Aaron Murray, prayer. I need to make it to my doctor appointment tomorrow. I need to correctly communicate my pain management needs. Asking Abba to stir my doctor's heart to help me better manage my pain. Ollie, prayer to be strengthened by Abba that my husband would receive eyes to see and ears to hear. All right, Sylvia, praise report. Frank's prostate cancer surgery went well. Thanks for their prayers. Also for a friend, Eva, that y'all bless her with shalom. Normal prayer for a Christian friend who is reading Messianic literature and making questions about Torah. Carrie, so very many unspoken prayers. Tony, praise report. My situation with my marriage is resolving and my husband is planning on attending Sukkot with me and my mom. Prayer for many unspokens.
Who was that last one?
Tony?
Okay. I did try to call you, just telling her that. Okay, never mind.
MTOI Lakeview, Ohio. Shalom Mishpukah. Prayer for Tanya and also for more vehicle issues. Selena, various Stevensons all have fever and coughing, so prayer for them. Olivia and Janet Hoffman, prayers for discernment and healing in our family. And I know there's quite a bit of a delay, but that's all I have. Oh, one more. Pray for Gabriel from Santi. Pray for Gabriel Ho, my son's physical recovery and children's spiritual connection with Elohim. Jonathan Thompson, praise Abba for this walk, this emunah, counseling by leadership, this mishpocha, the tests, the trials that keep us humble. Prayers for the widows and unspoken. Marie, prayer for my son whose lung has collapsed 2 times in 10 days. Please, Linda, please pray for my son Benjamin, who's in prison. Elena, I can't even pronounce the name. Unspoken prayers, please, and thank you.
Okay.
Alicia, prayer for Mike and I getting house ready to put on the market. Lots to do, downsizing to try to get out of house by January 2020. And that's all I have.
Okay, amen. All right, Michael has his hand up. Bring it up to him. He first wants to apologize for being late, apparently.
369 registered for Sukkot.
369, wow. All right, you're excused for being late for that. Okay. All right. That's going to cover for the prayer needs. Okay, good. Let's just also pray for those that have been asking for prayer since when we got together last on Shabbat, and also praise that the leadership meetings this past Sunday went very well and were very productive, and lots of good reports and things going on there. Everybody's excited about Sukkot. Okay? So let's go ahead and have somebody open up the study with prayer, and then we'll get into some announcements, and we'll actually start the study. Who wants to open us up? Okay, Rick, go ahead. Give Rick the mic.
Abba, Father, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for your Torah. We thank you for your instruction to lead us in your ways, that you may bless us, that we may enter your kingdom according to your will. We pray for all the requests tonight, the spoken and the unspoken. You know the needs. You are the provider and healer of all, and we thank you for that. We praise you in advance. We thank you for this time together, and we pray that our hearts will be open, our minds open to receive what you have for us from your word, that we will learn things that we can apply in our lives on a daily basis to honor and glorify you. In Yeshua's name we ask this. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay. Owen, do you know anything about the 2 thermostats? Can you just make it a little warmer in here? It's not bothering me, but I see everybody's like in the middle of the summer here at 90-degree weather wearing sweatshirts. So I'm assuming it's a little cold in the room. So we could just fix that a little bit. Okay? Yeah, well, that's okay. Just want to, everybody came prepared knowing that it's cold in this room. All right, so let's go through a couple of announcements real quickly. So first of all, we have coming up here, we've got Rosh Hashanah, we've got Feast of Trumpets. So we've got on September the 30th, then October 9th, we have Yom Kippur, and then we have Sukkot from the 13th to the 22nd. The actual holy day is 14th to the 20th, with Shemini Atzeret being on the 21st. Oh, there it is behind me on the screen. Okay, good. All right. So we do have those things coming up. I do want to make an announcement. I will make this announcement again later when we have maybe more people online. How many you got on there right now? 216, so that's a good number already. Okay, I want to clarify something. We'll clarify this again on Shabbat. There seems to be some confusion. And I want to clarify the confusion. So this is the confusion. It's not a big deal, but it is a confusion. Okay, MTOI is very excited, this is not the confusion, that people want to move here. And we're also very willing and able and happy to provide what I would call advisory services. However, somehow it's gotten around that we're going to show up and pack up your house for you and bring your stuff here and unpack it. Not happening. Don't have the staff to do that. And so we don't have the, but that has somehow gotten around, and it's not the first time it's gotten around. So if you're the one who just did it recently, I'm not picking on you. This has been a confusion for many months now, where word somehow gets around, where people think that we're going to go ahead and send a crew in a truck and get their stuff and bring them here. Okay, I'm going to take something you've heard me say, and I'm going to, don't guess till the end, because there's a little twist at the end. You are primarily responsible for all aspects of your move. Okay? I know I've used to say all aspects of your life, but that's a part of your life, but you are responsible. That means that if you want to move here, let me give you the guidelines. You should, A, be able to take care of all aspects of your move. B, have money in the bank to cushion the transitional period. C, have a job situation or income situation already lined up, unless, of course, you're already on fixed income, then you should know how to handle that. And lastly, you should have a way to handle if something were to happen to your car. Because apparently everybody who comes here has car problems at some point. Okay, so you're also primarily responsible for all aspects of your car. All right, we will help you where we can, but just understand that our primary function for those who want to move here is advisory. We can tell you about job opportunities. We can tell you about housing opportunities. We can put you in contact with a realtor that we recommend. These kind of things, we can help you get in touch with things that are here, but you have to be primarily responsible for all that stuff. We want you to come here. But just understand that we are not the oasis filled with this, diamonds and money flying out of every pore of our bodies to take care of everybody's needs. You have to come here fairly self-sufficient. We provide a place for you to come, meaning the congregational building, and a place to worship together and to be together, and some of those other things that we provide as a ministry. But you are primarily responsible for pretty much all aspects of your move. And that's kind of gotten a little confusing. Sometimes how people started thinking that we're going to buy a truck and rent things and buy and store their stuff and all this other stuff, or put them up in housing when they get here. We don't have that. We don't have that kind of a facility to do that. Okay? And so just please keep that in mind. It doesn't mean we don't want you to come. We want everybody to come. I think it's great. And whether we want you to or not, apparently you're all coming anyway. So since I don't have a choice in the matter, okay? So just please keep that in mind. We love you all. We really are excited to help you in ways we can, but just realize that we do not have a huge staff. I know we have 200 computers logged on. That might seem big to a lot of people. That seems pretty big to me. And on services time, you see 100 and so people here in the room. But we only have a staff of 6 or 7 people, contrary to what anybody else might not be out there saying, as far as, we only have a small staff of people. We do have some people that volunteer to help with some things as well. But it's not a very big staff because that's just what Abba's provided enough funds for at this time. And so please be respectful of that, okay? All right, so just wanted to clarify that. So like I said, it wasn't a big deal, but there is a confusion. And then if it gets out there and more people are expecting things, you know what will happen? They will get upset with us and disappointed when we don't provide what they thought we had done for other people. We have not ever sent anybody to pack up anybody and bring them here. Actually, that's not true. 2 blind gentlemen. Once. We sent the crew down with a truck. As you can imagine and understand why that would be something we would do. Okay? And we packed their stuff, and we picked it up and brought it out. Okay? But otherwise, generally speaking, that's not something, we just can't. I mean, it's not that we wouldn't. Now, we possibly could find people to volunteer, possibly to help you unload your truck. It's possible. I can't promise you a guarantee. It depends on who's available and who's around when you show up. Because some of you are going to show up on like a Tuesday morning or a Wednesday morning and think, oh, why isn't anybody around to help me unload my truck? Because it's a Tuesday morning. People are working. People are in school. I mean, not everybody's around. Okay, so just kind of keep all that stuff in mind. All right? Think of us primarily, as David is our relocation coordinator, as available for advisory services. All right? So hopefully that clarified that. Okay. Now, this week's Torah portion is what? What are we up to this week? We're on Ki Tavo. Now, you jumped ahead. It's the Nitzavim next week. All right? Let's not get Deuteronomy over faster than we need to. All right. We enjoyed Deuteronomy. So Ki Tavo. Last week was Ki Tetzei, and now we're up to Ki Tavo. All right? So, Ki Tavo means when you come. It's Deuteronomy 26:1 to 29:9. Okay? So we are getting through this quite a bit. All right? And so it's going to end us up in the middle of chapter 29, more or less. 26:1 to 29:9. And we're going to have 10 readings today. Some of them are fairly short, but this way gives a lot of people a chance to read. So we're going to go ahead and fill those seats in if anybody wants to get in those seats. I know Rabbi Tom is headed up this way, so that's good. We'll have him up here. All right, so let's see, we got 6 or so, 7 chairs there. Let's fill them up at least once. All right. Nobody wants to go first, apparently. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. Fill in those chairs. All right. All right, so for those of you on the live stream and those of you here, so the way this works is we're going to read this week's Torah portion, and then after we read it, we'll have a couple of quick announcements again, maybe just for those that came in late, just to get everybody caught up on maybe the quick things that we covered, and then we'll go ahead and discuss the portion. So what does that mean? That means that you should have some sort of way, a pen, a pencil, a computer, whatever it is that you're writing notes on, some way to make note of things that we're reading, because as we read, you may be inspired to want to ask a question about something you heard, or you may be inspired to make a comment about something you heard. And so when we get to the discussion part, you'll be prepared, and so you should have a way to make note. Okay, and I will promise you, as the teacher who's trying to set the example for you, I don't have. Okay, as your teacher, take 2. All right. I have my pen, and I've got my paper with my notes, and I always have notes from previous years on there, but I always add. I'm always listening live and attuned to whatever it might be, received as I'm listening today. So I'll always be there, so I do have this. As a matter of fact, sometimes you may wonder why I'm a little delayed walking up to take the mic from the person to give it to the next person, because I may still be writing something down that it occurs to me may need to be covered or discussed. Okay? Now, all right, so that's very important that we do that. Okay, good. All right, so for each reader, I'm going to recite a traditional blessing over the reader, tell you what verses you're reading, and then I'll come back up here when you're done. And if you are one of the ones that each week we sometimes have someone who goes too far or stops too early, don't worry. Don't be embarrassed. We'll just fix it. It's not a big deal. It happens. When you're in the middle of your reading, it's sometimes hard to remember where you are to finish. Okay, now, so I got 10 of you. Okay, so we can begin with Rabbi Tom. We can get you up here and out of the way right away. We'll get you right in there first. I'm going to give him this one, so it's fine. Okay, you're going to read out of yours? Okay. You're going to read 26:1. If you have a phone, you may want to turn it off. I turned off mine to make sure you get yours turned off, especially if you have AOL. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rabbi Tom's going to start us off in chapter 26 and read verses 1 through 11.
Thank you.
And it shall be when you come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first of all the fruits of the soil which you bring from your land that Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. And you shall put it in a basket and go to the place where Yahweh your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there. And you shall come to the one who is priest in those days and say to him, I shall declare today to Yahweh your Elohim that I have come to the land which Yahweh swore to our fathers to give us. And the priest shall take the basket from your hand, and place it before the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall answer and say before Yahweh your Elohim, my father was a perishing Aramean, and he went down to Mitzrayim and sojourned there with few men. And there he became a nation great, mighty, and numerous. But the Mitzrayites did evil to us and afflicted us and imposed hard labor on us. Then we cried out to Yahweh, Elohim of our fathers, and Yahweh heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our oppression. And Yahweh brought us out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, with great fear and with signs and wonders. And he brought us to this place and has given us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now see, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which you, O Yahweh, have given me. Then you shall place it before Yahweh your Elohim, and bow down before Yahweh your Elohim, and shall rejoice in all the good which Yahweh your Elohim has given you and your house, you and the Levite and the stranger who is among you.
Amen. Amen. Okay. Thank you, Rabbi Tom. All right, come up, Christina. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Christina, who's come out to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, Christina, take us from verse 12 to the end of the chapter.
When you have completed tithing, all the tithe of your increase in the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, and have given it to the Levite, to the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, and they have eaten within your gates and have been satisfied, then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I have put away the set-apart portion from my house, and also I have given it to the Levite, and to the stranger, and to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all your command which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commands, nor have I forgotten. I have not eaten any of it when in mourning, nor have I removed any of it for any unclean use, nor given any of it for the dead. I have obeyed the voice of Yahweh my Elohim. I have done according to all that you have commanded me. Look from your set-apart dwelling place, from the heavens, and bless your people Israel, and the land which you have given us, as you swore to our fathers, a land flowing with milk and honey. Today, Yahweh your Elohim is commanding you to do these laws and right rulings, and you shall guard and do them with all your heart and with all your being. You have today caused Yahweh to proclaim to be your Elohim and to walk in his ways and guard his laws and his commands and his right rulings and to obey his voice. And Yahweh has caused you to proclaim today to be his people, a treasured possession, as he has spoken to you, and to guard all his commands, so as to set you high above all nations, which he has made for praise and for name and for esteem, and for you to be set apart people to Yahweh your Elohim, as he has spoken.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Christina. Michael? He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Michael, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Michael's taking us now into chapter 27 and reading verses 1 through 13.
And Moshe with the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, Guard all the commands which I am commanding you today. And it shall be, on the day when you pass over the Yarden to the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, that you shall set up for yourselves large stones and plaster them with plaster, and write on them all the words of this Torah. When you have passed over, so that you go into the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, a land flowing with milk and honey, as Yahweh your Elohim, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you. And it shall be, when you have passed over the Yarden, that on Mount Abel you set up these stones which I command you today, and you shall plaster them with plaster, and build a slaughter place to Yahweh your Elohim there, a slaughter place of stones. Do not use an iron tool on them. Build the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim with complete stones, and you shall offer ascending offerings on it to Yahweh your Elohim, and shall slaughter peace offerings and eat there, and rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall write all the words of this Torah on the stones, plainly and well. And Moshe and the priest, the Levites, spoke to all Israel, saying, Be silent and hear, O Israel. This day you have become the people of Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and do his commandments and his laws which I command you today. And Moshe commanded the people on that day, saying, These are to stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people when you have passed over the Yarden, Shimon and Levi, and Yehudah and Yisahakar, and Yosef and Binyamin. And these are to stand on Mount Ebal to curse Reuben, Gad, and Asher, and Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali.
Amen. You had such a good grip on that mic. You kept hitting in the mic, mute and unmuting it. It was kind of cool. Okay. All right. All right, so Betty. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Betty, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, now you actually get a cool interactive one. So as you read, as you go through, you'll get to where it says, Cursed is, and eventually it says, and they shall answer and say, and then all of us are going to say, Amen. Okay, so as you go through, there's a bunch of those amens. Okay, take us now from verse 14 to the end of the chapter.
And the Levites shall speak with a loud voice and say to all the men of Israel, Cursed is the man who makes a carved or molded image, an abomination to Yahweh, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and sets it up in secret. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen. Cursed is he who makes light of the father or his mother. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who moves his neighbor's boundary. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who misleads the blind in the way. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who twists the right ruling of the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who lies with his father's wife, because he has uncovered his father's bed. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who lies with any beast. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who lies with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother. And all the people shall say, Cursed is he who lies with his mother-in-law. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who strikes his neighbor secretly. And all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed is he who takes a bribe to strike an innocent being. And all the people shall say, Cursed is he who does not establish the words of this Torah. And all the people shall say, Amen.
Amen. Okay, amen. All right. Of course, one of those didn't seem to make any sense to me. Why would anybody think to sleep with their mother-in-law? So that seems like that one should have gone without saying. I'm just trying to make sure you guys didn't get too, for all that cursing, Okay, anyway. Every now and then I got to make Manny laugh. That's just part of the way it goes. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Trisha, who's come out to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. By the way, for those of you out there, some of you do a lot of your etymological things, and you think Amen is Amen, like Amen Ra. Look, Amen means it is agreed. So he says, cursed is this and this and this, and all the people said, we agree. It is agreed. So Amen means I agree. Okay, you're standing in agreement. Okay, we're going to now go into chapter 28 and read verses 1 through 14.
And it shall be, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh, your Elohim, to guard, to do all his commands, which I command you today, that Yahweh your Elohim shall set you high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you, if you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. Blessed are you in the city, and blessed are you in the field. Blessed is the fruit of your body, and the fruit of your ground, and the fruit of your livestock, the increase of your cattle, and the offspring of your flocks. Blessed is your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed are you when you come in, and blessed are you when you go out. Yahweh causes your enemies to rise against you, to be smitten before your face. They come out against you one way and flee before you 7 ways. Yahweh commands the blessing on you in your storehouses and in all in which you set your hand, and shall bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. Yahweh does establish you as a set-apart people to himself, as he has sworn to you, if you guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim and walk in all his ways. And all peoples of the earth shall see that the name of Yahweh is called upon you, and they shall be afraid of you. And Yahweh shall make you to have plenty of what is good in the fruit of your body, in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground, in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give you. Yahweh opens to you his good treasure, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its seasons, and to bless all the works of your hand. And you shall lend to many nations, but you do not borrow. And Yahweh shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall be only on top and not beneath. If you obey the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, which I command you today to guard and to do, and do not turn aside from any of the words which I commanding you today, right or left, to go after other mighty ones to serve them.
Amen. Amen. Okay, next up, Kathy. All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kathy, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, we're going to go now from verse 15 to 28.
And it shall be, if you do not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard to do all his commands and his laws, which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Cursed are you in the city, and cursed are you in the field. Cursed is your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed is the fruit of your body and the fruit of your land, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. Cursed are you when you come in, and cursed are you when you go out. Yahweh sends on you the curse, the confusion, and the rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly, because of all the evil of your doings by which you have forsaken me. Yahweh makes the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the land which you are going to possess. Yahweh strikes you with a wasting disease, and with inflammation, and with burning, and with extreme heat, and with the sword, and with blight, and with mildew, and they shall pursue you until you perish. And your heavens which are over your head shall be bronze, and the earth which is under you iron. Yahweh makes the rain of your land powder and dust. From the heavens it comes down on you until you are destroyed. Yahweh causes you to be defeated before your enemies. You go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. And you shall become a horror to all the reigns of the earth. And your carcasses shall be food for all the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the earth, with no one to frighten them away. Yahweh shall strike you with the boils of Mitzrayim, with tumors, and with the scab, and with the itch from which you are unable to be healed.
Amen. Okay. And I had you actually stop in verse early because that actually works better. Okay, Shira. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shira, who's come up to honor Yahweh of the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, Shira, take us now from verse 28 to verse 44.
Yahweh shall strike you with madness and blindness and bewilderment of heart, and you shall be groping at noon as a blind man gropes in darkness, and not prosper in your ways. And you shall be only oppressed and plundered all the days with no one to save you. You become engaged to a wife, but another man does lie with her. You build a house, but do not dwell in it. You plant a vineyard, but do not use its fruit. Your ox is slaughtered before your eyes, but you do not eat of it. Your donkey is violently taken from before you, and it is not given back to you. Your sheep are given to your enemies, with no one to save them. Your sons and your daughters are given to another people, and your eyes look and fail for them all day long, and your hand powerless. A people whom you have not known, eat the fruit of your land and all your labors, and you shall only be oppressed and crushed all the days. And you shall be maddened because of the sight which your eyes see. Yahweh strikes you in the knees and on the legs with evil boils, of which you are unable to be healed, and from the sole of your foot to the top of your head. Yahweh brings you and the sovereign whom you set over you to a nation which neither you nor your fathers have known, and there you shall serve other mighty ones, wood and stone. Thus you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a mockery among all the peoples to which Yahweh drives you. You take much seed out into the field, but gather little in, for the locust consumes it. Which verse? Okay. You plant vineyards and shall labor, but you neither drink of the wine nor gather, for the worm eats it. You have olive trees in all your border, but do not anoint with oil, for your olives drop off. You bring forth sons and daughters, but they are not with you, for they go into captivity. Locusts possess all your trees and the fruit of your ground. The sojourner who is among you rises higher and higher above you, but you come down lower and lower. He lends to you, but you do not lend to him. He is the head, and you are the tail.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Shira. All right, you guys did the math right. We got the right number of readers left. Perfect. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rick, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rick, you're going to take us from verse, 45 to 57.
And all these curses shall come upon you, and they shall pursue and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard his commands and his laws which he commanded you. And they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and on your seed forever, because you did not serve Yahweh your Elohim with joy and gladness of heart for all the plenty. You shall serve your enemies whom Yahweh sends against you, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in need of all. And he shall put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. Yahweh shall bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you shall not understand, a fierce-looking nation which shall show no regard for the elderly, nor show favor to the young. And they shall eat the fruit of your livestock and the fruit of your land until you are destroyed. They leave you no grain, nor new wine, nor oil, nor the increase of your cattle or the offspring of your flocks, until they have destroyed you. And they shall besiege you at all your gates, till your high and fenced walls, in which you are trusting, come down in all your land. And they shall besiege you at all your gates in all your land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. And you shall eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom Yahweh your Elohim has given you, in the siege and distress in which your enemies distress you. The man among you who is tender and who is very delicate, his eye is evil against his brother, against the wife of his bosom, and against the rest of his children whom he leaves behind, against any of them the flesh of his children that he eats, because it is all that has been left to him in the siege and distress with which your enemy distresses you in all your gates. The tender and the delicate woman among you, who has not tried to set the sole of her foot on the ground because of her delicateness and tenderness, her eye is evil against the husband of her bosom, and against her son, and against her daughter, and against her seed which comes out from between her feet, and her children whom she bears, for she eats them in secret for lack of all, in the siege and distress with which your enemy distresses you in all your gates.
Amen. All right. Mr. Steve. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Steve, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Steve's going to take us from verse 58 to the end of the chapter.
If you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that is written in this book, to fear this esteemed and awesome name, Yahweh, your Elohim, then Yahweh shall bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great long-lasting plagues, and grievous and lasting sicknesses. And he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mitzrayim, of which you were afraid, and they shall cling to you. And every sickness and every plague which is not written in this book of this Torah, Yahweh does bring upon you until you are destroyed. And you shall be left with few men, although you have become as numerous as the stars of the heavens, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. It shall be that as Yahweh rejoiced over you to do good and increase you, so Yahweh does rejoice over you to destroy you and lay you waste. And you shall be plucked from off the land which you go to possess. And Yahweh scattered among you all the peoples, and one end of the earth to the other. And you shall serve other mighty ones, which is neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. Among those nations you are to find no rest, have no resting place for the sole of your foot, but there Yahweh shall give you a trembling heart and failing eyes and a sorrow being, and your life shall be as hanging in suspense before you, and you shall fear night and day and not be certain of your life. In the morning you say, oh, that is where evening. In the evening you say, oh, that it were morning, because the fear of your heart with which you fear, and because of the sight which your eyes see. And Yahweh shall bring you back to Mitzrayim in ships, by the way of which I said to you, you are never to be seen again, and it shall be, and there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one to buy.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, next up and last, our reader is May. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless May, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, May, you're going to take us into chapter 29 and read the first 9 verses.
These are the words of the covenant which Yahweh commanded Moshe to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. And Moshe called all Israel and said to them, you yourselves saw that all Yahweh did before your eyes in the land of Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land. Your eyes saw the great trials, the signs, and those great wonders. But Yahweh has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear till this day. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your garments have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn out on your feet. You ate no bread and drank no wine, nor strong drink, so that you might know that I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And when you came to this place, Shion, sovereign of Heshbon, and Og, sovereign of Bashan, came out against us to battle, and we struck them and took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites and to the Gadites, and half to the tribe of Manasseh. Therefore you shall guard the words of this covenant and do them, so that prosper in all you do.
Amen. Amen. Okay, give me a second to bring the mic stand back around. Okay, the traditional closing blessing. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. Okay. Okay, so let me just go ahead and switch this book out. Some of you may be watching going, why is he switching the bigger one out? Because I use the older version. It's the way my brain works, is the 98 version. That's the newer 2009 version. So anyway. All right, so a couple of quick announcements before we get into the portion. This is going to be real fast. Just a reminder, we do this every Tuesday. Also a reminder that we do live stream our services on Shabbat, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We do have the holy days coming. Yay! Okay. They're coming really soon here. So we have trumpets on the 30th, Atonement on October 9th, and then Sukkot. We should all be arriving on the 13th and leaving on the 22nd. We'll be up in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Also a reminder that we will not be having services here. We'll be streaming it from there on that Saturday, which is the 12th. Okay? The holy days you need to take off would be September 30th, October 9th, October 14th, and October 21st. Did you all write that down? Okay, no. All right. All right, a couple of other things real quick. We do have a new website. It's the same old website with a whole new look. And of course, being new, it has got all kinds of things that we're still working on. So please be patient as we are getting things up and running on there. There are things that you're used to being where they're supposed to be and they're not. Other things that are going to be new that you've never seen before. We're going to get this all up and working, hopefully here very quickly. We're making changes on it and fixing things up every day. So what you're going to want to be able to do is when you pull up the website, you need to refresh your browser or your browser history to make sure that it is giving you the changes as you go back to it. Refresh the screen when you go back, because it may just bring you back to it the way you thought it was when you first went back there. All right? Okay, so I just want to make sure we covered that. Also, for those of you, again, who are traveling here, we do run an advisory service. We are not going to come over there with a truck, pack your house, box everything up, and bring it here, and then unpack it and put it away for you. Not happening. Okay. But we do want you to come, and we're excited people are coming. And so anyway, go watch the beginning of this study to get the full report. Okay. That was quick. That was easy. All right. So now, a bunch of protocols, processes, ground rules, whatever you want to call it for this part of the discussion, especially for you guys on the live stream. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to try to go through these chapters, starting in chapter 26, and get as much of it done as we can. As we do, we're also going to be trying to find the flow, so we want to kind of go in order. We want to make sure we're getting our context. Let's try to look for the verses and the things in it that you can take and say, hey, I can apply this in my life. All right? Because there may be some things that you go, I always wondered about that. And we might be able to cover some of those, but I'm more concerned with I can use that to help me become more like him. Okay? That's kind of what we're really looking to do. It's transformative stuff. Okay? Anyway, remember, this stuff was written as examples for you so you can learn in your transformation process. Okay, if you're on live stream, please be respectful. If you don't agree with something that I put forth or someone else puts forth, we're okay with discussion. We're okay with people not agreeing, but let's be not being disagreeable. Okay, you can disagree without being disagreeable. And respect the leadership of, I believe Kurt's probably in there as well with Manny. Just if they're doing stuff online, please respect their authority on the online chat. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and start with Steve.
Okay, hold on, I can't see. Alrighty, it says in chapter 26, verse 2, I guess you should read 1. And it shall be when you come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you as an inheritance, and you shall possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first fruits of your soil and bring it to the land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. I'll stop there. To me, I don't want to just wait until I'm in the land. I should give my all now, or practice to try to do the best I can instead of a good enough attitude.
Okay, I appreciate that. Amen. Okay, so first of all, I don't want people putting in their baskets a bunch of soil. Okay, so not the first of your dirt. No, I'm kidding. But also remember that they're being given this instruction because they're about to cross over the Jordan into the land. So it wasn't like it was for very far in the future. He's trying to say, look, these are my final instructions before you go over. Okay? And actually, we're getting really close to the final instructions because we're already up to chapters, finishing up in chapter 29. So we're getting real close to the end, okay? Okay. Well said. There's a lot more to talk about with that beginning of chapter 26. Why don't you bring it to the live stream, guys? We'll give them a first shot again, and that way it'll be a little easier. They may cover some of the stuff you guys want to cover, but this way they won't have to feel like they typed something in and then we covered it and then we get to read their question later.
I don't have any questions regarding 26. Can I jump to 27 and 28?
No. All right. I want to cover some stuff in 26 first.
Okay.
Okay, anybody in here have anything on 26? Okay, bring it to Michael. Well, we will bring it back to you when we get to 27.
So in verse 2, at the end of verse 2, it says, your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there. That kind of caught my attention because obviously I'm here because for me, it seems that he calls his name to dwell here. And we're not in the land, but...
Amen. Okay, so I'm going to confess. Okay, so I've kind of come to see this differently over the years. Okay, it used to be that when I did the study on this, that I really felt strongly that the phrase really was talking about Jerusalem, and once it became Jerusalem, it wasn't yet, there was no Jerusalem yet, but okay, once it became Jerusalem, that's where it was supposed to stay. And it is talking ultimately about eventually getting back to it being at Jerusalem. But then once we did the study called No Other Name, and we came to understand the deeper, wide-ranging meaning of the using of the phrase, the name, that had to do with his authority, his reputation, those representing him, that certainly that would then qualify other locations as he scattered us to be those places where you look for his name. But you're not looking just for someone who knows how to pronounce it. Okay, so what you're looking for is his authority, his anointing, the cloud, the pillar of fire, whatever. It's something that shows you that he's there, and you're looking for his reputation, things that show his lineage, so to speak. People looking to be children of the living Elohim. Not lineage genealogically, but from the way you behave, that they can see him here. Okay, so where he places his name. He places his reputation, his authority, etc. So well said, Michael. Okay, anybody else for chapter 26? Okay, Rick? Yeah, don't bring it back to the live stream because I have stuff that I might add if nobody covers the few things I had wanted to cover. So, okay, Rick, go ahead.
Okay, what jumped out at me that I never read before, well, I obviously read it before, but never paid attention to it before. Verses 17 and 18, the word caused. Mm-hmm. Moshe is saying to them, you have today caused Yahweh to proclaim to be your Elohim. And then in verse 18, and Yahweh has caused you to proclaim today to be his people. What did they do that day that caused Yahweh to proclaim to be their Elohim? When did Moses start this actual discourse in response to what they did to proclaim to cause him to proclaim to be their Elohim?
Okay, anybody want to kind of jump in on that? You want to say something about that? Or about something else? Okay, Kathy wants to say something about that. Go ahead. That's okay. It can be wrong. Nothing wrong with being wrong. Am I allowed to say that in a sentence? Nothing wrong with being wrong? Okay.
Well, I think he's referring back to Mount Sinai when they agreed to do everything the Deuteronomy 8:2.
Ding, 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 ding. Right answer. Okay. Because that's one of the ones in my notes. This is the fulfillment of Exodus 19. Okay, so he says, if you agree to obey my voice and do all the things I say, I will take you as my people. So now they've finally gotten to the Jordan to cross over. He said, you have caused, through this journey, through this 40 years and all this stuff, you have caused, now we're at that place. Yahweh will now call you his people, and you will call him your Elohim. Okay, so thank you, Kathy. Perfectly played. Okay? It was a fulfillment and referring back to Exodus 19. Okay? So good question, but that's where we sometimes have to look for those prophecies. Okay, Yahweh said, if you would do this, this, and this, and he says, well, guess what? Now you've done it. And I promised to bring you to the land, and now we're here. So from this point forward, this is now the new status. You can call him your Elohim, and he will call you his people. Okay? So excellent. Well played, Steve.
Jump down to 13.
Yep.
Where it says, and you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I have put away the set apart portion from my house, and I have given it to the Levite, to the stranger, to the fatherless, the widow, according to your command, which you have commanded me. To me, this challenges not only me, but it should challenge us. Are we tithing correctly? Because I hear a lot of people say, if I can save up for Sukkot, well, geez, isn't that the second tithe? And this coming after Sukkot is my second time to do the third tithe with you. So that should come off the top before you even pay your bills.
Amen. Well said. Okay, anybody want to say anything about that verse? Okay, Michael? or that section. Really, let me just say this. This section, I wrote it down, is what I call tithe declaration. We're going to have them laminated, by the way, and handed out when you come to put your money in the box. You'll have to stand there and talk about your ancestry being Aramean and the whole thing. More importantly, declare that you have not done it in a wrong way or used it in an abusive way or given it away for the wrong things. But anyway, go ahead, Michael.
A little bit before that, in verse 12, and then continuing on, 13 and all what was already spoken about. So I have just 2 days ago heard the teaching on tithing, and so it kind of strikes me, it sticks out that it kind of talks about the 3 tithings right there in that. I mean, that's the proof that there are 3 tithings in that, in these little verses right here.
Right. Now, if you look at verse 12, it says, when you've completed tithing, all the tithe of your increase in the 3rd year, the year of tithing. So that's the year you've got 3. And it says that's an even more important year to make sure that you declare that you've not done anything inappropriate with your tithe. Okay, now imagine how much more accurate people might be if they actually had to make a declaration as they turned in their tithe. You know, you guys sort of anonymously sneak over to the box and stick something in because we just keep it in the back. Nobody watches you. I've watched people who even live stream their services, and you see people have to go up and put it in a box in front of the camera and everything. That's, you know, we don't need to embarrass people into doing it. But what if you had to get up there in a private way with you and the priest, the high priest in this case, and say to the Levite, I'm making a declaration here, okay? It shall be when you come into the land, it says, you shall take the first fruits, and you're going to go there, you're going to declare. You shall come to the one who was the priest in those days, verse 3, and say, I shall declare today to Yahweh your Elohim that I have come to the land, etc. And the priest shall take the basket. And then he goes forward and he says in, let's see. He says in verse 14, I have not eaten any of it. When in mourning, I have not removed any of it for any unclean use, nor given any of it to the dead. I have obeyed the voice. Previous verse says that I've given it to those I'm supposed to give it to. I've kept it for myself as I'm supposed to do. Shared it with the Levites, shared it with the strangers, etc., etc. That's talking about the 3rd tithe specifically, okay? But he also says a declaration of, so you're declaring, yes, I did what I was supposed to do with it, but I'm also going to declare that I did not do. Because some of you borrow out of your tithe thinking you're going to put it back. He says, I didn't use my tithe for anything it's not supposed to be for. All right? And so now, of course, if you've counseled, and through counsel there's been some decisions about how you handle tithe because of some bad money management practices that are getting straightened out, that's between you and your leader, teacher who's working with you. That's not policy for everybody. All right? Everybody has what they're going through and might need a very individual counseling in their effort to get it to where it's supposed to be. All right? And so we covered that to some degree in the tithing teaching as we talked about those things. Now, very important for those of you that are like Mr. Michael Diaz. All right? Maybe today, or somewhere close to today, it's your first time hearing about this. Maybe you're just hearing about it right now, and you're going to go now listen to the teaching called tithing. And you're going to learn about these 3 tithes. You're going to try to figure it all out. Okay, so now, as you're working on that, when you find out that there's one that you do on the 3rd and 6th years of a 7-year cycle, the first question that's going to come to your head is, when do I start counting? What year are we in? Now, I can promise you, in spite of, or despite what people, there's a couple of guys out there that think they know when the Shemitah years are. The Shemitah is the 7th year, or the Yovel, the 50th year, the Jubilee. They don't. They've done an effort, and they may be right, but they may be wrong. And I was about to go into a Billy Joel song, but I won't. Okay? Because there may be a lunatic there listening to. Okay, never mind. But just understand that since we don't know, okay, look, I got to get a song reference in somewhere. It's just my thing. All right. But since we don't know, my counsel has been, call it a Deuteronomy 17 thing. And it actually ends up helping the ministry to a certain degree because it has cash flowing in for these things every year instead of only in the 3rd and the 6th years. And we're not really set up with the warehouses and the way that they had it set up in Israel. So my counsel has been, you can disagree, that's fine. If you're not in this group, do it any way you want. If you're in this group still, I guess you do it any way you want. Nobody forces you. But my counsel has been that you start counting from the time you figured it out. Because it would be a little rough for you to start your very first figuring it out to find out, oh my goodness, it's the 3rd year. I got to do all 3 and I just figured it out. That's a little tough. And so my counsel additionally has been that if it's almost the end of the year, by the way, the tithing year is another cycle different than your normal calendar cycle. It ends and begins after Sukkot. Okay, because it's designed to have as a big part of it the second tithe, which is to finance your ability to go to the feasts. And the feasts complete themselves with Shemini Atzeret. Okay? So right now we are very close to the fall feasts. So if you're just now figuring this all out, it would be legitimate, my counsel would be, that you could start counting year 1 the day after Shemini Atzeret. That's the beginning of year 1 for you. I mean, you could be more aggressive about it and decide to count year 1 already and start year 2. That's up to you. I would feel very comfortable with you starting your count. Now, if you find out about this and you're just brand new and you find out about it in like November, December, right after the feast, well, you just started the year. You might as well start that as year 1. Okay? And don't sit there. If you have to sit there counting to see if you're more than halfway through the year, your attitude's all wrong. Okay? Let's not figure that out. I mean, if you're anywhere close to the middle, certainly you can count at year 1 and you can go ahead and go forward. All right? But I mean, if it's clearly, almost to the fall feasts, all right, well, you don't even probably have enough second tithe even for the feast. You just found out about all this. Okay, so you're just getting started. By the way, that happened to me my first feasts. When I first started learning to tithe, and this goes back over 30 years, okay, I was not ready for my first feast because I only found out about the tithing and the second tithe like a couple of weeks before the feast. Thankfully, I had some people help me with benevolence to get there and work it out, and I had some of my own money. And so I didn't have to just use tithe, but otherwise, I had no idea about the second tithe. Okay? So hopefully, Michael, that was probably a question you might also have. Well, then how do I count the math? And the math is that for you, starting after Shemini Atzeret on October the 22nd, that would be day 1 of the year 1. Okay, so then when you get to that next end of that Sukkot, then that starts year 2. Okay, so you've got a little while to go. All right, so good questions. This is why I didn't want to just skip chapter 26, because I think it's really important that we covered the 2 things, the fulfillment of Exodus 19 and this tithe declaration. Tithing is so important to Yahweh that he made people declare in front of the priests, which means that they're doing it before Yahweh and Yahweh's representative, that I've not done anything inappropriate with this stuff. I've done it exactly like what you told me, what I've been instructed to do according to Torah. That's powerful stuff. And some of you are thinking, I'm glad I don't live back then. Why? You should be very comfortable to be able to make those declarations. Okay? You should have the zealousness that Steve has, because Steve, this becomes a little issue for him because, he takes it seriously, and sometimes when he notices and hears about people not, and that's okay. It's not that he's judging anybody. He doesn't get it. He finds it frustrating. I find it frustrating, and not from a financial point of view for me. My finances are just fine. The ministry's finances are just fine because Yahweh will supply it one way or the other. It's my frustrations for you and then for myself because then I end up counseling your brokenness because you're cutting your financial throat because you won't listen to him. So that's the only reason that it's important to me is because it's hard, more work for me if you guys are struggling. And you're only hurting yourself. You're not hurting anybody else. He owns all the gold. He owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns everything. He doesn't need your stuff. Okay? And I don't either. If he wants to pay ministry, he can do it any way he wants. He will inspire somebody to do something. Okay? It's about you. Now, I know a lot of ministries try to turn it around and everything else. You just need to understand and study it out and realize this is about you. And the only one you're hurting is you. And so you might want to ask yourself, hey, can I comfortably make those declarations? Am I doing this honestly the best I can? If you're starting to argue about the gross and the net and the this and that, again, your attitude is all wrong. Okay? It doesn't say render unto Yahweh after you render unto Caesar. So just knock that off. All right? Okay. Go listen to the tithing teaching. It should straighten almost all those things out. Okay. Anything else in chapter 26? All right. Tricia?
I just want to clarify something as also regarding tithing, if this is appropriate, because this is what I do, is I take the part about leaving the corners of your fields, and what I do is I round mine up so that there's a little bit of extra. Do you think that that's appropriate? I mean,
Certainly.
I've done that on my own, but I just never asked if that was appropriate.
Sure. I mean, look, anything above and beyond, that's what just be considered an offering. And offerings are often used to help the benevolence for the poor, for the needy, for whatever else is going on, okay? And so, just understand that tithing and offerings are completely different things. This is a question that comes up a lot. People will contact us often. Well, do I tithe on this and do I tithe on that? And then go back and listen to the teaching, because tithing is something you do based on increase, based on lucrative effort. Okay, so if you happen to inherit something or somebody gifts you something, that's not tithable. That certainly doesn't mean that you can't make an offering on it because you feel very blessed to receive something. Okay? So just understand that. Same thing with your tax return money. You probably get this confusion in your head, but if you didn't tithe on it, well, you're already in trouble. You should have tithed on it when it was income. Now you're just getting it back. So there's no need to tithe on a tax return. Now, for whatever reason, if you just have had an abundant time and you feel very blessed, and now that you have this money coming in, you want to make an offering, that's great. But that's not a required thing to do. Because I know people, I say, look, unless somehow you tithed only on the net, well, then you need to tithe on that you didn't tithe on. Okay, but if you're tithing on the gross, your tax return money is just your money being returned to you. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. So, because lots of things can come up in your life where you get a blessing of finances somehow that you did not earn or work for. Okay, so make an offering if you want. Again, keywords, if you want. Nobody said you have to do it. Tithing is something that if you are covenanted, you have to do. Now, I'm not going to make you do it, but he's watching you, and he takes it serious enough to make them make a declaration. That's the key piece of this whole deal here, okay? All right. Now you can bring it back to the live stream. You guys can take us into 27. 27, 28. I stirred them up. Now we got some 26s. You guys just like the Billy Joel song, and that's why you got stirred up.
Actually, it's about Billy Joel.
Okay.
Just kidding. Somebody did ask an interesting question.
They think I'm the lunatic. Okay. That's what they're looking for.
Somebody had a question about, I can't find the way they worded it, but they want to know if they declare in front of the priest and they didn't do it correctly, what would happen?
They would be responsible for making that, declaration. I mean, that's basically a false representation. That's a lie. I mean, they're breaking a commandment. Yeah, they're held. Look, there's an accountability. You reap what you sow. And what comes out of your mouth, you're responsible for what comes out of your mouth. And so, by the way, just because we don't make you do the formal declaration, when you go and put your money in the box, the way we do it today, by the way, I didn't get to this. Let me kind of insert something first. For all those of you on live stream, because I know nobody in here has a problem, but I know some of you out there probably do. Oh, but I thought that's just for the Levites, and, we don't have Levites anymore. First tithing ever done in Scripture was given to Melchizedek, not a Levite, not related at all to Levi. All right? I mean, I guess through great, whatever, all the way back to Shem, but not a Levite. Okay? So, don't think that. It's about supporting those in the leadership of Yahweh, whether it's the Melchizedekian priesthood or Levitical priesthood, to do the work of Yahweh. Okay? And so that's the preemptive thing there. So the other piece was to the question, which I forgot the question because I interrupted myself. What was the point again? Manny doesn't remember.
Well, they just wanted to know if you did it incorrectly, would you get in trouble?
Okay, that was the thing. Okay, so then by the same token, then when you put an offering or a tithe, the offerings doesn't matter. The offering is just coming out of your heart. But if you put a tithe in the box and you and him know what's going on, he knows what you're doing. The Creator is paying attention. You're declaring it as your tithe. You know if it is your tithe or not. Okay? By the way, the ministry and you both know when you talk to the ministry about not being able to come to Sukkot because you didn't have your tithe. Now, you know and the ministry knows. We don't know because we don't check your pay stub to see if you're tithing correctly on the normal tithe, but we certainly might know if you've been with us long enough to have had a whole year of tithing that there may be some other challenges with your finances why you don't have a second tithe put aside to enjoy the feasts. And we do get quite a few people year after year saying, well, I don't know if I can come because I don't have any money. And okay, look, what did I tell you guys? I'm not trying to mock anybody. This is a serious problem. Finances is a real problem for people. I've told you, and tithing is going to expose one of two possible problems. A selfishness, because you don't want to give up your money. It's my money. I don't want to give it up. We're very particular about our money. And then the other part that it could possibly expose, if not that, is a financial challenge. In other words, your inability to handle money correctly, or you're just not working the right type of careers. You have a financial issue. So tithing is very useful because it can help you deal with one of those two problems. If you are not tithing or struggling with your tithing, then you have one of two problems. You're either selfish, which is probably not the case in most people, or you've got a finance problem that's not being addressed well enough. Because if you didn't have a finance problem, you would be tithing properly, unless you're selfish. But like I said, I assume most people don't have that problem. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying, okay? So just keep that in mind. Don't be embarrassed to go then say to the person like me, whoever it is that you're working with, hey, I have one of those two problems. I'm struggling with it. You might have both. It could happen. But don't be embarrassed. You can't fix it if you can't own it. You have to first own it by saying, I have it. Remember, own it, fix it. Those are your first two steps. Own it, fix it. And you have to be saying, I can't come to Sukkot because I have one of these two problems. I either have a finance problem or I'm selfish or both, and I didn't tithe properly. Somehow, some of you are able to afford to do a lot of things that you seem to own and have, but you're not making tithing important enough so you go to feasts. Or you're not making going to feasts important enough. I had a person, not around anymore, I don't even remember who said it, years ago who said, well, you know, Rabbi, I only get 2 weeks vacation, and my family, we always go to Disney one week in the summer every year, so I don't know how, I can't go to both feasts. And I said, excuse me, but if you'd rather be with the mouse, that's your problem. Or one person didn't say it wasn't about having enough time. They said, well, we spend a lot of money. We go to Disney for one, and then I said, the mouse doesn't need your money. Okay? But if you'd rather spend a week with the mouse in 100 degrees of just torture. I've been to Disney in the summer when I lived in Orlando on a weekday. So it just happened to be a weekday in the summer. This is not wisdom. I'll put it that way. Okay, I'll be blunt. This is stupid. I'm telling you, you do not want to go to an amusement park in 90 plus degrees. It's not fun for anybody. And then spend $100 plus a ticket. It is bad news. You don't want to be doing that. Okay, so that being said, okay, hopefully that's helping with some of these tithing issues and that kind of a thing. So just let it be what it is. Let it expose. Look, you're supposed to be doing tikkun to a certain degree. This is a Hebrew for cleaning up or fixing what's wrong in your character, in who you are. Okay? And so that means things that are like selfishness, laziness, whatever it is. There's all these negative things that could be characteristics that you have. Well, you can't fix them if you can't be willing to stand up. It's like an alcoholic is not going to get anywhere until they admit they're an alcoholic. Well, you're a something-holic, addicted to some bad, negative sort of, non-useful thought process or behavior pattern. Own that so you can fix it. Negative thought processes and negative behavior patterns that are causing you, it's stealing your joy, it's giving you stress, it's making you depressed, it's frustrating you. I don't know, it sounds like something you might want to get rid of. You might want to fix it. Okay? But, okay? But you're not going to get there if you don't own it first. All right, who's next? Christina?
I actually debated on saying this, so I have like a comment and then a question after.
Okay, you can have both.
So back I moved here in January, and I had not been working outside of the home for a long time. So I was getting back into the tithing thing, and I could not figure out why I could not make ends meet. It was awful. In February of this year, I was praying about it, and I was like, Father, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have to choose between tithing and paying this bill, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so I kept praying about it, and then it was very much impressed upon me. Do you believe that He is the anointed appointed over you? I was like, yeah. And He's like, do you believe that what He's saying and teaching is true? And I was like, yes. He says, okay, do you trust me? And then I was reminded of the scripture that says to test me, to bring all the tithes in the storehouse and to test me. And He said, test me. And I was like, okay. And since then, I'm still working through, I went to the Dave Ramsey class, so I'm still working through financial things and stuff like that. But as a single mom of 2 kids, suddenly everything started going in my favor. It still hasn't got there completely yet, but from Rabbi's counsel, from tithing, from doing the second tithe, I should not be able to do the first and second tithe, but I do. And somehow I don't have to stress about money. I don't have to worry about it. I needed a lawnmower at one point, and we went to Walmart, and they had one on sale for $35. So, it was amazing. So I just wanted to encourage anyone who's thinking about it and like, I just can't do it. Well, He tends to have you step out on water before He is able to really bring forth a miracle.
Amen.
But my question is...
Hold on, before your question, let me just add the idea that He loves to operate in, I can't see it, and then show it to you. But you can't get to that place if you're not going to do while you can't see. You need to do it even though you can't see. Okay, now you may need counsel, because I don't want you to put yourself into harm. And there's a balance, and there's things where you can get counsel about it, because after all, if you're going to do something and they need benevolence because you got yourself in all kinds of trouble and they're going to throw you out of your house or whatever, but come and get counsel, and which she did. We talked about these things. But just understand all these verses that talk about, like when Yahweh let them get to the sea and they were surrounded in all sides. They could not see it, and He loves to work where you can't see it. But you have to do what? Be still in order to see it. He says, be still and see the deliverance of Yah. And so that you let that testimony get to you where she's, I remember when Steve first started doing the tithing and added the second and the third, etc. Almost every month he was contacting me on, Rabbi, I just can't even figure it out. My finances have never been this good. It didn't make any sense to him at the beginning. He said, I just went and put my blinders on and just kept doing it. And let Him fix your finances. You do your part. Amen. Go ahead.
It's ironic that you said the whole be still thing. That's what Yahweh says to me a lot. Because I'm blue, so I tend to be emotional about stuff, and I just go all over the page, and He's just like, be still and watch, And then you were talking about, at the Red Sea. But for me, a lot of times I'll think of Ki Tavo when he was asking if he could come out onto the water, and Yeshua bid him to come. And just miraculous things happen whenever things when you step out in faith. Mm-hmm. And it just, you have to have the emunah that he's gonna catch you.
Amen.
Now,
Amen.
One thing that kind of reminded me, and this is the question part, it kind of reminded me of when you were talking about they were bringing the second tithe up and they were actually making a declaration of Acts 5, where Ananias and Sapphira were bringing theirs. And I don't think that was a tithe, but it definitely was, they were bringing it before the congregation and presenting it to everyone as if it was a full amount. And
And what happened to them?
yeah, they died.
Well, that's also because, again, they were declaring it to be something it wasn't. They had promised it to be something it wasn't. And that's a big deal. By the way, I'd never thought of this before, but you mentioned the blue. What's Israel's colors? White and blue. Stubborn and emotional. There you go. Stubborn and emotional. Okay? All right? Anyway, just throwing it out there. Okay? Okay? I don't know, but I'm just saying that it was a statement of the nation as a whole, not individuals all in the nation. Okay. Anyway, just making a joke, but go ahead.
I got just a comment about the tithing.
Yep.
I have my own business, so I have expenses, but I do not subtract those before I tithe. If the check says $600, I tithe off the $600. Then I have gas, insurance, but and all the other stuff that comes along too, but I still tithe off of whatever the check says, not before. And I have to say that if I see it as we're supposed to, and Yahweh's in control of everything, now I'm debt-free, and 2 cars are paid for.
Amen. Okay. Just to clarify, you don't have to go as far as Mr. Steve just said. I mean, you could deduct the expenses and things, but what he's explaining is that since he showed an attitude of generosity and obedience and trust, Abba has blessed that. Okay? But bear in mind that you would generally, it's the increase. So like if I bought so many cows, right? And then they produced more and I had an increase, right? And then you tithe of the produce. Or if I had so much seed and made crops, and then you would be the increase above what I started with, right? Now, so you can do that. But also don't start getting all like CPA on it and try to do some sort of crazy accounting just to try to figure out how can I justify not paying every penny. That's where you start to get in trouble with Yah. So he found it a lot easier. I get a check for a job I just did for $600. I'm just going to take $60 off the top. I'll deal with everything else after that. Certainly a praiseworthy way to go. But just want to clarify in case someone thinks that's my position. No, obviously if you have a business of your own, that you would be able to deduct your costs of doing business because that's not an increase yet. Okay? And so, but listen to his testimony. Still a great testimony. Doing it that way even has gotten him completely out of debt in a short period of time. And now he's up to his third tithe year starting after the feast. So he's already been through one, and he's seen how that was. And I'm telling you, I used to get the phone calls going, I don't get it. He was like, I don't get it. I've never been this busy. I can't believe the amount of work I'm getting. I mean, it's just, the more I'm giving and putting, the more he just keeps giving me more. You can't outgive him. Okay? All right, next.
I have a question. Somebody's asking, my question is it wrong to make my tithe tax deductible?
What does that mean? I don't know. If you give it to us, it's already tax deductible. If you give it to any ministry, it's already tax deductible. And you don't need to have a ministry that's 501c3. It just means that the government can look them up. It just means that if you ever get audited, you just have to prove that the ministry you gave it to was a legitimate congregation ministry, not just some guy in his basement running something or whatever. No, I'm just serious. I mean, But MTOI, just in case, because the people out there that love it or hate it, MTOI is under the subsection 501c3 as an association of congregations, like a denomination. We're filed. And Beth Shalom isn't filed as anything, because it doesn't have to. It qualifies under the subsection called 501c3 as a church or as a congregation. So both would be tax deductible equally. One is just easier for the government to look it up. Okay? And for all of you that are freaking out online, I know you, I see you doing it. The government cannot just walk in and tell me what I can and can't say and blah, 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 blah. If they did give us any grief, all I'd have to do is drop the designation. I could say, fine, keep your 501c3. But for right now, it's allowing us to have enough funds to do a lot of things because we don't have to pay the tax that we would otherwise have to pay, and that money's going to very good use. And that's being wise stewards. As long as the government allows for that, we should do it. And so I've got a beautiful little letter from the IRS telling us we don't have to do certain things because we qualify, okay? We had a file for that and everything else. But there's a lot of fear-mongering people out there that are out there going, oh no, you've made a contract with the devil. What? Come on. Do you really listen to that? Why would you believe that? Oh, I've got videos to show you, Rabbi. I'm telling you, I've seen all those videos. Stop that. Okay? But if you don't like it, send the money to Beth Shalom. If you do like it, send it to MTOI. We want to make sure that everybody's happy. Okay? All right. Anyway. And by the way, what we did as a congregation is the IRS is nice enough every year to post on their website the requirements to qualify under 501c3 as a church. And so what we did was we would go there and print it out, notice that we actually meet all the qualifications, and stick that in our file. And so if they ever came to us and questioned anything, said, look, here, this is your list of qualifications, and we meet them. Okay? No big issue. And by the way, if you ever had an audit, you could simply say, we gave our money to Beth Shalom, fine. They would say, well, who's Beth Shalom? And then you contact us so we could provide any documentation they need, and you'd be fine. And it would still be tax deductible. Here's the funny part, 99%, I mean this, maybe 99.9% of all of you that are worried about this don't give enough to get a deduction anyway. So, hush. Because the standard deduction is huge, okay? And some of you got frustrated when you first started tithing and thought, oh, I'm tithing now. Let me see how that affects my refund. Zero. Because you don't give enough, because they give you such a big deduction so that you don't have to figure all that stuff out. All right? And so, anyway. Okay, so it's amazing because almost everybody's yakking about it isn't given either. They're probably not even, look, it's like the person that used to tell us, I think we're doing too much work on Shabbat, moving these tables around for the oneg. Of course, it was somebody that never lifted a table ever. I was like, why does it bother you? I never saw you pick up a table once. So you quietly sit there and be quiet. You know, I'm glad that you don't think we should be moving them, so don't. I mean, it's funny how the people complain that people aren't doing. You know, well, you know that 501c3, so okay, fine. We're not at Beth Shalom. Send all your checks to Beth Shalom. That's not 501c3. Let's see if that makes any difference. All of a sudden, we get Beth Shalom checks. Okay? All right. Next question. If anybody feels brave enough to do the next question. How many we got on there anyway?
303.
303. All right. They're waiting to see if I'm going to sing the Billy Joel song. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Jonathan Thompson wants to know if there could be a tithing diagram on the new website linking the tithing teaching and tithing Q&A in the future.
I don't think it's that complicated, but I guess we could, we'll do something that looks like trigonometry and we'll just lay it out or something.
Raymond Ramlow has a comment. He says, so sad people use the change in priesthood to justify stealing from Yah, the tithe given to him in all ages, even since before Sinai. So wrong. If Yeshua is your high priest, you will tithe to the priesthood and servants that serve in his temple. That's beautiful.
Amen. Because remember, that's a really good point. Thank you, Raymond, for putting that out. The tithe isn't going to the Levite. The tithe isn't going to the Melchizedek. And the tithe is going to Yahweh through an agency of anointing, through an appointed person. Okay? But it's still you're tithing to Yahweh. Okay? All right. Excellent.
There's a lady on here who says What if you're disabled and you only get $780 a month, your rent is $525, and you still have to pay utilities? Please suggest a way for me to do this. I have a lot of guilt.
Okay, see, again, this is kind of the challenge, and I'm not picking on this lady here. Listen to me carefully. Income produced, okay? Benevolence from the government, disability income, retirement, just that $700 a month that people get, that's not income produced. You don't need to tithe on that. Okay, that's not. Now, if you worked your whole life and you got a Social Security check that comes in and it's a pretty good size because you made pretty good money and everything else, you can tithe off of that because that's a benefit that you're getting back. But if you're somebody on fixed income, you're getting, because remember, Social Security is an insurance program. It's SSI, okay? And so it's there to ensure that you have at least minimal amount, and they really mean minimal, to live on. Okay, so there's no tithing on that. That's an insurance benefit. It's not an income. Okay, it's not SSI, meaning Social Security income. It's an insurance program to ensure that people wouldn't be just living on the street with nothing. Close, but not quite, right? Okay, because it's a struggle. They really don't give you very much, all right? But that's not something you would tithe on. So hopefully that answers your question, okay? No, you do not tithe on your $700 a month in the government. Okay? That's not produced income. You didn't do anything to produce it. The government's giving it to you because you can't produce. Okay? And that's not your fault necessarily, right? Because maybe age, injuries, disabilities, illness, whatever. You can't produce, so the government helps you. Okay, that's not produced income. All right, next. By the way, some of the people, because they do feel guilty, do want to give something. Give a widow's mite. Just do something to make you feel like you're doing something. Send $1. Just put something in the Bible. I mean, if it's going to make you feel, you don't have to do anything. But I know a lot of people don't want to feel poor and they don't want to do nothing. So do something. Whatever you feel you can do, if that's what you. But I just want you to know that there's no obligation whatsoever for you to do anything with that kind of an income. Okay. All right. Don't feel guilty. Let that go. Release it. Okay?
All right. Evangeline wants to know, chapter 26:14, can you please explain that verse?
Yeah, I mean, that's just basically, look, remember, the scripture is not literal in terms of every little detail. It's making a parable or a point. It's you saying, I've not done anything I shouldn't do with it. He lists here, the writer is listing here a few things that were commonly done in those days that people might have done with what they were not supposed to, as far as how they could mishandle it. It's simply a declaration, I didn't do anything inappropriate with these funds. Okay? And that's just a list that would have made sense to the people living at that time of things that would have likely been a temptation. See, they're not going to say, I didn't go to Starbucks with it and I didn't go to, see, that's something we deal with. They didn't deal with that. I didn't use it to pay my cable bill. I didn't use it to pay my cell phone. See, these are the kind of declarations you might make. Okay? Okay, but they had more things with death rituals, and that's why it talks about things like tattoos for dead, and carvings for dead, and cuttings for dead. So that's kind of one of those things that you see in here. I've not removed any of it when I was in mourning, or for any unclean use, or given it for the dead, or some other. These are things that were culturally more common then. Okay, but what's the point, though? I have not misappropriated the funds. That's what you're declaring. Okay, next point.
Comment from Arthur, 26:11, we should rejoice and give thanks always for all good Yahweh gives. At all times give thanks.
Amen. See, and you guys were almost going to skip chapter 26. We just spent the last 45 minutes in chapter 26. See that? That's why I said no. When you say, can we go to 27, right? Because look at all this stuff in 26 we needed to cover. All right, what else you got?
I just needed you to stall a little bit.
Okay.
And I think we may have answered this one. Claudia wants to know, 26:12, can you please explain the year of tithing?
I explained that.
Okay.
Because that's just a way of referring to the third and sixth year, because after all, those are the years when you have all three tithes. So that's kind of considered the year of tithing. All right?
Got it. That's all I had for 26.
All right, go. 27.
14 through 27. Question from MTOI Philippines, Jet. Can it be the entire city be cursed doing all these image and wooden worshiping? Obviously, the entire city has no growth, and politics are so corrupted, etc. Is it possible?
Look, whatever's going on in your country, wherever we're in our country, wherever it is, I mean, it's hard to say, that this is because of what the Torah observant people are or not doing, or those who should have been covenant are not doing. These things are happening because the world is not doing. And it's also because he's allowed the world to spin into this kind of bizarre abyss that we're in, right? Okay? And so let's be careful we don't fall into like very Christianized sort of thing like the hurricane wiped out New Orleans because of all the sin there. No, it didn't. Okay? I mean, after all, it could have wiped out half this country, if not all this country, because of all the sin there. Why would it just pick on New Orleans? There's worse cities in this country, I promise you. Okay, I'm just saying that mindset, they brought this on, it's that they're being punished. Look, let's not, it's the same thing. We're about to go into 2020. Guess what? There's going to be an election. I'm going to warn you in advance. I don't want to hear a single one of you come to me. You could do it yourselves if you insist. I'd rather you didn't. Don't come to me and tell me how this is the most important election, blah, 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 and life depends on it, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Okay? No matter who's elected in the next election or any future election, ultimately it's not going to make a difference. Okay? Yeshua is still going to need to come, and it's still going to need to fix it all up, etc. Amen? And for those of you on live stream, I'm looking this way because 2 people sitting over here, I don't want to leave you guys alone, and everybody else is sitting over here and the live stream desk. So I'm kind of finding my neck going this way more. It is a balance. You guys are the same as, like, equal to those guys. I mean, we'll work on your pride and ego issues later. Okay, so just, to throw that out there for Jet, look, I know the Philippines has been hit a lot. Jet's over in the Philippines. It's got its issues. It's got its corruption and everything else. But you know what? I've been a lot of places that are suffering from different things. Man brings a lot of the junk on themselves. They reap what they sow. It's not just because they're doing sin. Okay? They can also just do dumb things that bring just normal, natural consequences, not necessarily cursing. This is for the nation of Israel as a nation. Okay, that they're all saying amen, amen. They're publicly declaring, just like the tithe was declared. We're declaring, yes, that cursed is the man who does this and cursed is the man who does that. And they're saying, we agree, that should be a cursed thing. Okay? Of course, then they ended up as a nation not really paying a lot of attention to all this. But anyway, go ahead.
26:17, Claudia wants to know, what does it mean, make light of his father and or his mother?
That's verse 16, okay.
16.
This is just, he's throwing out there some of the 10 Commandments, okay? And a lot of, if you notice what's happening through here, there's some sexual things, there's some authority things, and really the mother and father thing is just about, it's the beginnings of where authority respect starts, okay? Because if you don't respect your mother and father, you're probably not going to respect your teachers, your bosses, your rabbis, your priests, or whatever. I mean, whoever it is, you're not going to learn to respect your husband, your wife. The kids are going to grow up and just become totally disrespectful adults eventually, okay?
Okay. Olivier, Rabbi, chapter 27, 15 through 26.
Yep.
Were these considered the worst abominations to Yahweh? Just wondering why these specific curses, as I understand, the curses come for disobedience of all commands. Correct me, please.
In chapter 28, we're told that, yes, it's all the different things, that bring cursing, because, of course, the real blessing and cursing is explained in the next chapter, but he doesn't tell us why he picked these. So let's not read more into it than that, okay? He just did. Now, again, this is not written to you. It's written to them. It's written for you, but it's not written to you. So we don't know what that culture was like. These may have been the biggest things they were struggling with more than some other things. Okay? But we're not from that time period, so we don't know. We just know that he wanted them to do this, so we're reading about it, okay? What I would note out of it is whatever it says cursed it is, you probably want to make note not to be doing it. Okay? Whether you think it's the top list of things or, why are these, don't even worry about why. Just say, okay, he separated it out, made a big issue of it. I should probably not be doing those things. Okay, next.
Next questions are on 28. Did you have anything else for 27?
No. We're good.
Okay.
Go to 28.
Rabbi, chapter
Oh, wait,
20.
actually, wait, one more thing in 27.
Okay.
But it was already kind of covered, but I want to just hit it again. It's actually in verse 9 where it says, look, Moses and the priests and the Levites spoke to all Israel, saying, be silent and hear. So it's not just about waiting for deliverance. You can't hear if you're talking. People come to me sometimes and they're blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know what? But as soon as you stop, you can't hear anything I'm saying till you stop. But it's not just the words coming out of your mouth. You're often thinking about what you want to be talking, and you're still not listening. Silence your mouth, silence your head, and hear. Okay? That's a real tough thing for people. He says, because this day you have become the people of Yahweh. The people of Yahweh can silence and listen. Silence and Shema, hear. But they have to be silent. By the way, I mean silent emotionally. Okay? Silence your agendas. Silence your opinions. Silence everything so that you can hear. If you want to have opinions and everything else after you hear, I guess that's well and good enough, but you have to shut all that stuff down so you can hear. Because what that does is what? It eliminates most of your filtering. In other words, you're filtering it through your culture. You're filtering it through your personal preferences. You're filtering it through, all these things are noise in your head. Your culture, your religious background, your gender, that doesn't matter. You're filtering it, your age, I don't care. I mean, what country you grew up in. You're filtering unless you can shut that all down so you can really hear. So I thought that was big, and actually that was one I added to my notes this year. It's just to be silent and hear. Okay? But I think to be silent is much more metaphoric or bigger than just not talking. Silence all the noise in your being and take a breath so you can hear. Amen? Okay, now you can go to 28.
Okay. Olivia and Janet Hoffman, Rabbi chapter 28, verses 1 through 13.
Yes.
Please forgive my question, since you always teach us that Torah blesses us, but these blessings do not apply to us. So he blesses us now. Is that by giving us what we need?
Okay, I think I understand the question. Okay, so look, when you're reading chapter 28, you're not reading it from the individual. Okay? You can't stand on these as like promises to you because you're starting to be covenanted. This is a corporate, national sort of discussion. It says, first of all, it shall be if you diligently obey the voice. Okay, that's in my notes that you need to start off with diligently obeying. But remember, he's talking to them as the end of chapter, even that verse 9 we read, he said, this day you become the people. And everything that goes forward from verse 9 of 27 is talking to them as the people of Elohim. Okay, so as a people, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh Elohim to guard all his commands, then he's going to set you high above all the other nations as a people. And you can expect that you will not be harassed, and your food will be abundant, and your produce will be there, and your women will be abundant, and in other words, all these blessings are national obedience derived through the national covenanting. So that's part one of the answer to Janet. Okay, so first, yes, you must understand that this is not something you could just stand on and say, okay, well, he said blessed is this and blessed is that, but that's national. When they were a nation in the land cohesively. However, he still does give you miracles in your life, small and great, as I say in the opening prayer every time we have prayer time on services, to remind us that he's aware, that he cares, and that he's there. Okay? So you can expect that. What does that look like? He chooses. Don't get into that Christianized where you get to decide what he's going to do for you. Okay? He's not your little magic genie that you rub the bottle and he comes out and does whatever you want. But you can count on, and I don't think there's a person here that would argue with me, that he will do enough to do those things that I said, that you'll know he's there, and that he's aware of what you're going through, and that he cares. And he'll do it in a way that you know it's him. Okay? That you can count on. But don't get that out of chapter 28, but it's still coming out of verse 1 though. If you diligently obey, make the effort, Deuteronomy 8:2, make the effort, if you diligently, that's the diligent part, make the effort to obey. You can expect him to intervene in your life enough to make sure you know he's there and you know it's him. Okay? Okay, next question.
Brian wants to know, does 28:4 mean healing of the body?
28:4. No, this is really talking about women having babies, the livestock having babies. It's the fruit of your body, the fruit of the ground, everything producing. Okay? So it's not really talking about physical health so much, but it's talking about your human beings, right? The people will have babies, your animals will produce babies, the ground will produce fruit, the trees will produce fruit. Everything's going to be abundant. Okay? There'll be abundance in all of the bringing forth of things. Okay? Now, by the way, we know that health is involved only because in the curses, what does he promise them? I will bring on you all the diseases and all the plagues of Egypt, etc., and even worse plagues and diseases that they didn't even have. Well, if that's the curse, then we know the blessing is the opposite. So as a nation, we can infer that they did have the health as part of that, okay? Because the opposite is expressed later in chapter 28 in verse 60, and he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mitzrayim. Well, that means that when they were blessed, they didn't have that, okay? He says, also every sickness and every plague, which is not even written in this book, which means that when they were blessed, they didn't have all of that. So I think we can extrapolate and infer that in the blessing side, people were healthy. Okay? Next question.
Clarification for Olivier on chapter 28, and he's got a ton of verses that come after that. He wants to know, are all the sicknesses and diseases curses from Elohim?
No, not necessarily, but they're not. Some of them are natural consequences, some of them are curses. Remember, he talks about Mitzrayim, so some of those he brought. Okay, he brought some of those plagues on them. Some of them are natural consequences of our bad behavior that brings on diseases and curses, etc. So it's, remember, causing and allowing. Yahweh either causes or allows. Yes, he may cause some of it, and he may allow others. Okay?
Okay, Michelle would like to know, was Deuteronomy 28, 53 through 57 part of the curses?
Yes, 53, 57 is part of the curses, and let's not go into that, only because it probably needs us to go into a more allegorical, like it's pointing at other things and hinting at other things beyond just that. But it's really talking about the idea of being, in today's terms, we'll call it being soft. Okay? In other words, not being strong and solid to do what you need to do, but delicate and soft and fragile in your convictions and things. It's not just talking about someone who happens to be frail. Okay? Okay, so let's just understand that there's more to it than just reading it in the literal. Now, as far as eating your own flesh and eating your own body and eating your children, that's not literal either. Although, when they use the siege metaphor, it's saying, look, when you feel like you're completely encompassed, all your supplies are being cut off, a lot of people did eat each other. They did whatever they had to do. So it's using these strong metaphors for how bad things will be. Okay? All right? So instead of providing for your own, you'll be taking from them. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was a real quick way of getting into it. There's a lot more we could probably glean out of that, but it's already after 10, so let's keep going.
Okay, I've got two more. Claudia would like to know, so 28:13, is that also making reference to Israel as a nation and not to individuals?
Yes, but it's also referring to individuals within Israel at that time under the corporate, okay?
Okay. And last one, lady.
Remember, everything in 28 is saying, look, when it talks about individual livestock will be fruitful, people, the women will be fruitful, the ground will be, you are going to be individually benefiting, but it's a corporate thing, Okay, it's not just saying individually, if you are doing it and the rest of them are not, then you get the good stuff. No, the nation's either going to be blessed or cursed. There were some people that were doing everything just fine when Assyria came and took everybody. There were some people doing everything just fine when Babylon came in and took everybody. But the nation failed. So the nation suffered. Okay, next.
Lady Di would like to know Deuteronomy 28:68. Can you explain? I've heard so many interpretations and desire some clarity.
I'm not sure I've ever heard that verse explained by anybody, but then again, I really don't pay attention to anything that I don't think it matters to you in your life today. What matters is that it says, if you're doing the things that you're doing, you'll be fine. If you're not doing them, you won't. And so I'm not going to worry about what all the curses actually look like. I'm going to avoid them. Okay? But again, this is not literal. He's not going to necessarily have them brought back in ships. You know, and that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is you're going to be back under slavery. So we're getting sort of the, you know, okay? Anyway. The bigger important verse, though, is verse 67. So hopefully somebody had that one on their list. Nope. See, I think things are more important that say things like the fact that we're not showing appreciation, but rather complaining. In the morning you say, oh, that it was evening. And in the evening you say, oh, that it was morning. In other words, you're not satisfied. All you're doing is whining and complaining because all you're seeing is the negative. Because in the evening, you're thinking, oh, I wish it was morning because in the morning things will be great. And then in the morning, you're wishing it was evening. Oh, because in the morning it really wasn't great, so in the evening it'll be great. In other words, why can't you be happy where you are? Because now is the only real time. You have no idea what evening is going to be like when it's morning or morning is going to be like when it's evening. But there's no appreciation. And by the way, guess what happens right after they show no appreciation and they're whining and complaining? That's when they get taken in the ships back to Mitzrayim. So I would worry much more about verse 67 than anybody explaining 68 in a way that works for you. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just saying I would focus a whole lot more on that verse, okay? All right.
Okay, last one. Charlie and Renee. 29:4. Can you explain this verse, please? It seems that after 40 years, this would have already happened.
Yep. Okay, and that's one of my last verses in my list as well. Okay, so, is that your last question there? Okay, I'll wrap it up by bringing that in. Okay, so first of all, 29:1, it says, these are the words of the covenant. We ought to do a teaching on that. Which Yahweh commanded Moshe to make, okay? So these are the words of the covenant. And then it says in verse 4, it says, but Yahweh has not given you a heart to know and eyes to see and ears to hear till this day. So up to this point, they have been developing this. When he says he hasn't given it to you, in other words, he's been causing them up to this point to experience and go through processes so that they can finally receive, see, and hear. He says, so up to this point, you still haven't really gotten it yet. That's what he's saying here. He says, Yahweh has not given you to know and see except until this day. In other words, he hasn't just provided you this instantaneous thing. You're supposed to be experiencing this and seeing it and getting it and coming to the right conclusions. Okay, very important verse. Okay, so Yahweh. Now, Ben, the other part of this is that we go back to the Father and the Son teaching where it talks about that it's the Father and the Son that give you open eyes. Now, remember, he opens the eyes. He opens the ears. He doesn't give you the heart and the eyes and the ears to see. In other words, he doesn't do it for you. He's saying, Yahweh hasn't done this for you. He said, but you have to see. What do you need to see? He said he led you through the 40 years in the wilderness. Your garments didn't wear out. Your sandals didn't wear out. You ate no bread and drank no this and blah, 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 so that you might know that Yahweh is Elohim. He says that I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So through experience, you would see, you would hear, you would receive. Your heart would change. See, I'm not just giving it to you. He gives you a heart that can receive. He doesn't just give you the heart that knows. He doesn't just give you eyes that see. He gives you eyes that can see. Remember, they sent 12 into the land. Only 2 of them saw. They all had the same eyes, same heart, same ears. He didn't give Caleb and Joshua different equipment to work with. Right? And so that's kind of what he's saying. He said, look, Yahweh didn't do this all for you. You experienced it. You should know what you've got at this point. You saw it. You heard it. You went through it. That's what we're getting to here, because he's about to send them across the Jordan. So he's giving them these sort of final admonitions, okay? So that's really important. And then the last thing that I want to put through here, let's see, in 20, I got the wrong verse. Give me a second. Wrong chapter. Okay. Easy to know when there's no verse in that chapter that high. Okay, so it's chapter 28 and 29. Okay, so last thing was, look, I didn't do this yet in the Melchizedekian type teaching, although we covered a lot about Melchizedek in the Hebrews part of the covenant teaching. But look, he is telling you in verse 58 of 28, if you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, somebody might say he's only talking about this book of Deuteronomy. Okay, that's fine. In the book of Deuteronomy, there's a ton of things that happen after Exodus 24, or wherever it is, the golden calf and all that other stuff, which the Melchizedekian teaching guys out there are saying, well, the law is written against us and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? A lot of those laws are mentioned in this book called Deuteronomy. So much for that whole thing. Well, that was different, and it wasn't the covenant stuff. That was the added later stuff. That's not true. Numbers 15 comes after Exodus 24, doesn't it? Aren't tzitzit mentioned in Deuteronomy 22? We read that, okay? So I'm just saying is, let's not be buying into these guys who are trying to be out there to sell you a bill of goods on how you can get away with doing less. You don't have to do all the Torah. That's all they're doing. They're bending and twisting Hebrews and Galatians. I've watched the teachings. I've listened to the teachings. It's a twisted Hebrews and Galatians to try to do the typical Christian thing, but instead of wiping out all the Torah, they're just wiping out the pieces they don't want. Okay? And so just realize that here in verse 58, it says, if you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, to fear the esteemed name and awesome name of Yahweh Elohim, then Yahweh shall bring on you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, etc. You're going to find over and over again as we get to the end here that he's talking about the Torah in this book, whatever this book is. And I will believe it to be at least the book of Devarim, if not all of it. And so when he's putting that out there, there are many things listed in the book of Devarim that are after the events that these teachers out there claim were the things that were nailed to the cross that were done away with or somehow were against us. They're only put there because Israel was so bad and evil and stupid. It seems kind of funny because after Yeshua died, people still continued to be bad and evil and stupid. Even today, people are still bad and evil and stupid. So when did we all of a sudden not need all of the law, all of the Torah, all of the benefits that Yahweh said we would need? People haven't changed, then we need what he gave people. He wrote that stuff for people. And we are still people, right? With all the flaws, the blemishes, the warts, the whole 9 yards. All right. So that should wrap it up. I think that was all I had in my notes. What was the overriding theme in this chapter? What word do we see over and over and over again? 2 words, obey and voice. Obey his voice. That's Exodus. That's the covenant, Exodus 19. This is about you obeying, hearing, being silent, his voice, and doing what you're supposed to do. Obey his voice. He says that a lot in this Torah portion, a lot in Deuteronomy. And by the way, his voice, we can look at the word voice, it can be taken out to be his spokespeople, his anointed, appointed, the ones he speaks through. Because obviously you are, well, not obviously, a lot of people claim they're hearing him directly. I'm concerned about some of them, but mostly Israel, at least in this book, is hearing through people. And when they get in trouble is when they're not listening to the appointeds that he puts out there to talk to them, to speak through, starting with Moshe. And then Moses says, when he sends other ones like me, you better listen. That's the ones who have his voice. He speaks through. Okay, now you may have a problem discerning who's he speaking through. Because a lot of people out there acting like and are claiming to be being spoken through. Well, that's your problem. You need to sort that out. I'm not saying, hey, that's your problem. I mean, that's a real problem. You need to figure that out. You want to pray about something? Pray about that. Abba, help me see whether it's because I want that person or I like what they're saying and that's why I'm attracted to that particular teacher, or is it really you speaking through them? Okay? That's kind of like the whole thing that Christina was saying earlier when he asked her, is that person appointed? Anointed? Did I tell you that you're supposed to go and listen to what? I mean, you got to figure that out. Paul tells you need those fivefold guys. That includes teachers. There's teachers in that list. Find one. Not anyone. Find one of the guys that Paul's talking about. The ones that are supposed to be there for the perfecting of the brethren until we all come into the conformity, the unity, the fullness and completeness that is Yeshua. Amen? Amen. Okay, awesome. Good job. All right, who's going to close us up? Okay, Owen's got his hand up. We'll bring it over to Owen. All right, so Owen's going to give us a little closing prayer, and then we will go ahead, for those of you who want to come up here, and we'll do a little wave goodnight. Okay, Owen?
Abba, thank you for your word. Thank you for your anointed, appointed Father. If there is one thing that I ask you, is that you will please, Father, as you have moved Rabba to say, that we would be silent, Father, and hear so that we can do. That we will be as the clay in the hands of the master potter, Father. That we will be the good ground, Father, that would bring plenty of fruit, Father. Help us, Father, get our emotional affairs straight, Father, and be able to be obedient, Father, so that we can hear at the end, a well done, good and trustworthy servant, Father. In Yeshua's mighty name. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay. Next week, we get into one of my absolute favorite ones, Nitzavim. And we start in chapter 29, verse 10. And it's just, Moses just literally hits it about as hard out of the ballpark as possible. And that from there through chapter 30, it's just fantastic stuff that we need to hear. So we should all be looking forward to that for next week. All right, so if anybody wants to come on up, come on up. I'm going to go ahead and wave and wish everybody good night. No, it's off already? Is the stream off, Marty? Because he's saying it's off. No? Okay. They think it's on this side. You say it's off on that side? Oh, people are commenting? Okay, well, we're going to do it anyway. Because we like to. No.
You guys have the coins. The women need something like that.
They got the little necklace
But
coin.
it's not the same.
Well, listen, grow a beard and we'll give you a big coin. Well, she was saying the ladies want a big coin because the guys do this. I said, well, then grow a beard. You can scratch your beard. All right, here we go. Shh. I know, but she said the little one is not the same as what the guy's doing this. I said, all right, well, grow a beard. All right, shh. All right, I repent. Okay, here we go. All right, for all of you on the live stream world, we do want you to know that we really appreciate you being out there, all 300 plus computers or whatever it was. And so we're going to, on the count of three, we're going to wish everybody we're going to wish them Laila Tov, which is good night, Shavua Tov, good week, and we'll tell them that we love them. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Laila Tov, Shavua Tov, we love you. And grow a beard if you want to scratch your face. Okay.